The following is a presentation of RMG Sports, award-winning championship television.
Coach Paul, thanks for coming in today. I know it's a holiday season. Everybody's trying to get things wrapped up before we go out on holiday vacation here, but thanks for coming all the way from Berlin, Pennsylvania to come here to Somerset. The purpose of this show is not only to go into some of the things that were going on. We like to kind of give people some background about our guests, and you're certainly no exception. Now, you graduated from Berlin in 1990. Then you went to WVU,
yes,
got your degree, and you came back to Berlin.
Yeah.
But you are truly a mountaineer at heart, aren't you? You're a mountaineer across the board, Berlin and West Virginia.
Yeah, definitely. Graduated 1990 from Berlin. I graduated from 1994 and from WVU. Actually, I did a couple-year hiatus there. I taught 1 year at Rockwood and then 4 years at Somerset, actually. Went back over to Berlin in 2001. So, yeah, mountaineer by heart. Born and raised there, lived there. Kids go to school there. My wife's from there. Both of our families are there, so yeah, definitely a mountaineer at heart.
You might have just answered my next question. What was it that brought you back to Berlin? Was it your goal to return and be a coach at your alma mater, or was it just good timing? What was it?
It was actually pretty good timing. In the late 90s, I had an opportunity to go back to Berlin, and I'm a school teacher first, even though I put a whole bunch more time into coaching than I ever do teaching. But in the late 90s, I had an opportunity to go back to Berlin, and Berlin's teachers, I got a call from the superintendent, and they were not, contract talks weren't going real good. And he said, it might be in your best interest to stay in Somerset at the time. And then in the early 2000s, Somerset hit the same thing, and the opportunity came at Berlin. And, I really enjoyed Somerset. I loved teaching at Somerset, but I was the traveling phys ed teacher who traveled from Freedens to Sipesville to Eagleview to Maple Ridge, and, sometimes all in the same day. And my vehicle was pretty much my phys ed closet. And, when the opportunity came, it was just, my family was from Berlin. My home was in Berlin. Less traveling, and it was just the right time, a good opportunity.
Took over in 2002 as head football coach. In 2001, the year before you took over, Berlin scored a total of 18 points. The entire year, the entire season, 18 total points. Now by 2004, you had the team at 12-1. What were the changes that you made? What side of magic dust did you sprinkle on that team to get things turned around?
The 2004 team was just a great group of seniors coming through. I was actually the junior high football coach at Berlin in 2001, and at the time we still had our freshmen down playing junior high football, and it was just a great group, good-sized linemen, great skill kids, and I thought the time was right. I know some people thought that I might have been too young at the time, but it was just, the program was at rock bottom, and luckily that group coming through, coaching them their sophomore, junior, senior year, they knew what I was about, and they were able to give us that year's success. But we made a lot of changes to the whole football culture in Berlin that just in the last 4 or 5 years that we're really starting to reap the benefits from.
I was going to say, in the past 5 seasons, you're 63-11. Solid record, 4 D5A titles, consecutive championships the past 2 years. Thanks in no small part to, I'll throw 2 names at you. We'll play word association now. Brinson Harding, second all-time leading passer in Berlin history. Great to have a quarterback like that back there.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. He's, ultimate dual-threat quarterback, and plus the intangibles you don't see on the field, the leadership abilities, the character. You definitely need a quarterback to, have a team go, and he ran our system perfect for the last couple of years.
How grateful are you to the Fluffman family?
Oh, very grateful. Their dad, he's harder on them than any coach could ever be, and he's pushed them ever since the time they've been little. And, Braden's an exceptional athlete. I've said it before, you could not draw up a better running back for our offense than what he is.
He has not only rewritten the record books, I think that they're going to have an entire new chapter for Braden Fluffman in there. And obviously his brother played before him, now wrestles at Pitt. Let's move to something a little more topical, the Farrell game. They seem to have your number this year. It just, the score is not indicative. It was a low-scoring game, but boy, they had you in the first half.
Yeah, we said, it was a heartbreaking way to lose the game, but we were very fortunate to even be in that opportunity to even still be in a football game. You know, to have somebody outgain you by almost 3 times yards. You know, I think they had 570 some and we had 180. It just wasn't a very good matchup for us. We had one of our starting linemen get hurt in our first playoff game against Meyersdale, and you know, going in against a team like that, you know, they were solid up front, big up front, but they also had athletes behind it, and it just wasn't the best matchup for us. And you know, like I said, fortunate enough to even be in that opportunity, to have an opportunity to still be in that game at the end of the game.
Ryan Kuster had a big interception. Braden Fuffman then goes in for the touchdown. You guys take the lead. Boy, I mean, your heart rate had to be going like crazy. What was the feeling on the sideline with the coaches at that point?
It was pretty exciting. You know, like I said, we felt very fortunate. That first half, we could have been down 28-0, and to be in that opportunity. And another thing that wasn't too well known at the time, you know, Braden Fuffman got hurt early in the Clairton game, and he had a hip pointer injury. He was probably playing at about 60% the Farrell game. Early in the Farrell game, he went up to deflect a pass and came down on his other hip. So he was playing with two banged up hips, and you know, to be in the situation, Brenson Harding was hurt, banged up a little bit. You know, to be in that situation at the end of the game, yeah, you know, we knew Farrell was very explosive, but at the same time, you know, when you're up by whatever it was, 13 points or whatever, with 4 minutes to go in the game, you're thinking, you know, you got a good shot at this. So
then along comes Marcus McCoy with a big catch. How the deflation, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was, you know, at that point in time, you knew, you know, 40-some seconds to go. It was, you know, barring if we return a kickoff, you know, it was going to be pretty hard to score on them there. And, yeah, you know, it was a little bit of a blown coverage, you know, a little bit of a missed assignment, you know, but it is what it is. You know, the kids that are involved with that, they played their guts out. They played their hearts out. You know, I've always said one play doesn't define a game. You know, that's the play everybody's going to remember. But at the same time, you know, we had other opportunities in that game that we didn't capitalize on. So, you know, I just got to give my kids all the credit in the world, you know, to be outgained by 3 times the amount of yardage and to get pushed around all game and still be in that situation. You know, that's a great opportunity.
Let's not dwell on the negative. Let's move back to the positive. 29-game winning streak at home. Mm-hmm. The Mountaineer Nation, unbelievable. I mean, the blue and white. I mean, when we covered the Berlin for Blitz in 2014, we got, actually back in 2013 when we started, we got our first taste of the Berlin Meyersdale game and the crazy fans and the packed stadium. I mean, it's not just a community support. You're from Berlin.
Yes.
This is your community supporting your team.
Yeah.
The facilities are top-notch, fan base top-notch. Talk about the Berlin Nation.
You know, I can't say enough about them. You know, sometimes people probably think they're crazy, but, you know, they're just very, very passionate. You know, they take their sport serious. You know, it's been a fun couple games with Clairton the last couple years. Not so much you know, this year we were able to finally have their number, but just the back and forth all week long between the fans. You know, people who didn't know what was going on would think, man, these people hate each other. But then as soon as the game's over, you know, on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page, the fans are there thanking each other. And, you know, the fans are very, very passionate about their football. You know, Friday evening in town, you know, businesses were decorated. People had signs out in their yards. They had a community pep rally Friday at the school that probably over 300, 400 community members came out to in the middle of Friday afternoon. And, yeah, you know, it's great, especially being from that town, because it shows that, you know, something like football can bring a community together and still a lot of pride in a community.
One thing I found very just fantastic was it's not just the Berlin community that was behind you guys. You mentioned on social media. We follow you guys on social media on Twitter. You see Portage, go Berlin. Somerset, go Berlin. Johnstown, we had Greater Johnstown coach Tony Penner here. He was singing your praises, you know, go Berlin. It was like everybody here wanted to see you guys advance, even if it was against one of the Laurel Highland Conference teams in BG. I wanted to see that game just for the game. It was going to be phenomenal. Yeah. But, I mean, how does that, do the players react to that? Do they understand what it's like to have your previous opponent, the sportsmanship that's shown to get behind you guys?
I think so. You know, I know everywhere our kids went, you know, they had people congratulating, people text messaging, people emailing them. Former players, you know, from some of our biggest rivals the last few years, Meyersdale, Portage, Winber, you know, tweeting to some of our players on Twitter about, hey, you know, do this for District 5, do this for the WestPAC. You know, this whole area, you know, I know I received, actually, you know, I don't want Clairton to hear this too loud, but I probably received more congratulations from Whitfield schools, you know, and people, hey, can we get a copy of that tape? How did you do it? You know, what did you do? Eastern schools, you know, I'm good friends with some football coaches in the eastern part of the state, and you know, just it was, you know, all over Hollidaysburg area, State College area. Yeah, it was phenomenal, the support that Berlin received from the state this year.
Two teams that you had to play in the playoffs, Clairton and Farrell, similar in size to Berlin. These are smaller towns, blue-collar towns, single-A teams, so smaller schools. And I hate using this phrase, especially around here, but the people like to use the depressed community.
Yeah.
And do you think the kids from depressed communities maybe play a little bit with a little bit more fuel in their tank, a little bit more fire in their belly than some of these the city kids that they like to say?
Yeah.
I mean, you had to play these guys.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I said for some of these kids, that's their only ticket out of these communities. You know, they understand what their educational situations and the educational opportunities they're going to have. You know, for some of these young men, that's their ticket away from the area. You know, to get to college. You know, because a lot of the families can't afford college, and you know, even at the Division III level, you know, they can't throw around the academic money, but they're going to find money for you in financial aid and stuff like that. So, definitely, you know, I think these kids. The other thing I think you see is these kids aren't born with silver spoons in their mouth. They have to work hard for everything they get. And, you know, I see that with our team. You know, they're just great, tremendous work ethic.
We talked about the support the community showed Berlin football. Now I'd like to talk about the support Berlin football showed the community. One thing that came across, and you had it on your Facebook page, the night before the semifinal game, the team went to see a young girl, is it Laramie?
Laramie
Ickes.
Yes.
Tell us how that came about. Tell the fans about that.
You know, it's. I'll even back up a little bit. You know, we're going to back up to Veterans Day. Our football team went and served a veterans dinner at the Legion that night, and you know, very, very supportive of, you know, the games we play on Friday night. You know, I'm a football coach, but there's much bigger things going on in life than Friday night football games. And you know, the sacrifice those people gave us for our freedom and stuff. You know, and I preach that to the kids, but you know, I don't push it on them, and they buy into that stuff. And they went and served the veterans. And then a young girl on our team, her father, Zach Ickes, he was an all-state football player for Berlin in 1998. And it's like the community, the pride thing, the football thing. You know, he's still part of the football family. And she was diagnosed this summer with a brain tumor. And actually, my daughter Lakai, she spends a lot of time with the family and goes up and spends the days with her and stuff like that. And she actually, some of our other football players are neighbors with her. So through some common deals there, we decided on senior night that we were going to carry her onto the field with us. And she was all smiles, and I think it was Dante Paul and Ryan Kuster had her and carried her onto the field. And ever since then, she called the football team her boys. And my daughter had actually told Dante about 2 days before that about how she made a poster for the football team. So he kind of got the troops together, and they signed a football, and a whole bunch of them the night before the game went up and visited her, and they said she was all smiles, and whenever they went to leave, she started crying and said she didn't want them to leave. And you know, she for as much as the boys gave to her, I think she taught them a whole lot more. You know, I mean, it's just, you don't see the compassion that 16, 17, and 18-year-olds show, you know, and the connection they have with this young girl, and how they understand, you know, that game against Farrell stinks, but at the same time, there's a whole lot bigger stuff going on in life than that football game.
Well, I salute you guys for doing that. I know that many times we get caught up in athletics and what the individuals can do, even as a team, and then it becomes just what the team can do, and there are many times when they forget that they're part of a community. Mm-hmm. And one thing I like about what we do here with our football is that, you know, these teams represent the town, and they understand, and then the town supports the team. And we saw it with Somerset last year when they went to the playoffs, everybody out, you know, saluting them as they went on to the playoffs out along the road. But I'd like to see that in teams. We had Coach Steele from Bedford here, and his kids are involved with Habitat for Humanity, and they do a lot of things there too. So it's good to see you're doing that, and keep that up. Now let's move on to, well, let's stay in 2015, and let's talk about Dante Paul. I mean, that's your son. I'm in no way, I mean, I coached my daughter's T-ball team.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's nothing like football, but there is a level of satisfaction you have there watching. There's a level of satisfaction taking young people who may not be good at something at one point, and then at the end, they're good at it, and you can look back and say, remember what it was like then.
Yeah.
It's great with my daughter at T-ball. It has to be phenomenal with Dante and what he's done for you and your team.
Yeah, it's, you know, we said the Farrell game, we needed 3 or 4 more of him. You know, after the Clareton game and the Farrell game, both coaches, you know, ultimate compliments to him, told him he was by far the best defensive end they played against all season long. And where we put him, you know, teams just stayed away from him. But I remember, you know, him and Braden Fuffman have been best friends for a long time, and he was always a big kid. And when he was in second grade flag football, he was the quarterback and Braden was the tailback. And they ran the old Vince Lombardi student body right, and Dante would pitch the ball to Braden, then run out in front of him and block for him. And even on the offensive line, Dante and Braden have a joke that, you know, out of the 6,700 yards or whatever it is he has, probably 6,000 of them came from running behind Dante, because we were a left-handed team, and we just ran behind him constantly. But yeah, after our freshman year when we won District 5 against North Star, I was going through the line, presented him a medal, and he gave me a big hug and said, we're getting 4 more of these things while I'm in school. His sophomore year came up a little bit short against Tussey Mount, and then we were able to finish it off a junior and senior year. So yeah, you know, he was able to make All-State last year. This summer he had a football injury, and he missed the first 2 games of the year, but you know, got some good doctors in Pittsburgh to take care of what was going on with him. And yeah, you know, he's another one of the special ones. You know, this whole senior class, you know, they're going to be tough to replace. You know, great kids not only on the field but also off the field.
That leads me to my next question. Let's move on to 2016. You lose Dante, you lose Fuffman, you're losing 13 seniors off your 53-man roster. Now, I've asked this of every coach, and maybe it gets tiring for the fans to hear this, but you know, it happens in collegiate sports. After 4 years, you got to replace. You got to keep moving people up. When you have players that are so good, and you're tempted to keep them in there because you want to win the game, but you also have to file that in the back of your head. You have to get the underclassmen some playing time. What's it going to be like in 2016 losing these players?
It's going to be tough. Like I said, it's going to be tough because of the players they are. But at the same time, you know, I don't think a lot of people in our conference realize what we have coming behind these guys. Our sophomore class, maybe it doesn't have a Braden Fuffman in it. It doesn't have a Dante Paul in it. It doesn't have a Brenson Harding in it. But as a whole class, it may be better than our senior class this year. I think our JV teams, we talked about our home winning streak, but I think our JV team now is on like a 33-game winning streak dating back to 2010. This year they were 9-0, beat schools such as Ligonier, you know, everybody in our conference. So the cupboard's definitely not bare, but at the same time, you know, I thought we did a pretty good job this year of rotating kids in, getting kids out. The first part of the year, Braden, Dante, Brenson, we're only playing half games. So those kids did get a lot of varsity experience this year. Enough pieces in the junior class, kids like Cole Booth, Tristan Brandt, Toby Cahill, Mark Craig, you know, enough kids who really stepped up and played great ball for us this year will be back. Probably biggest concerns heading into next year, we're going to be starting a new quarterback. Kid has a lot of potential, can throw a real good ball. Maybe not quite the athlete Brenson is, but maybe a better passer. And then our secondary, losing Brenson Harding, and Zane Yanowski, you know, that's definitely going to take some time to gel. But our front 8 on defense is going to be real solid next year. The sophomore class is blessed with a great offensive line, probably the best offensive line as a unit. So I think the style of football is going to change a little bit. We're not going to be that, you know, pinball video offense that's putting 50, 60 points a game. It's probably going to switch to a little bit more of a power scheme, but we're going to be okay.
The WestPAC, obviously Berlin has been the class of the conference the past several years. Portage has been right there with you, a solid competitor. Myersdale, your arch rival. You know, we love covering that game. I miss that game, I really do. Shade really coming around. They're doing really well. Now, it seems like those 4 teams are doing well. The other teams struggling. Rockwood lost their program. Ferndale came within an inch of losing their program. The WestPAC, what are the strengths of the WestPAC? What are the weaknesses of the WestPAC? And what are some solutions from a coaching standpoint?
You know, I think definitely the strengths. You know, our top end of our conference the last couple of years, you know, the WestPAC usually gets a bad rap around here because you have the Laurel Highlands, you have the ICC, you have the Heritage. But, you know, the top end of our conference has been just as solid as anybody the last couple of years. You know, last year with as tough as we played Clareton and as tough as Portage played BG. And then this year, you know, with us being able to knock off Clareton. I mean, obviously BG right now is a whole different animal, you know, with the way things are going with them. But, you know, I think the top of it's there, and, you know, we have some other teams coming along. But the WestPAC right now is running into a numbers game. You know, I know that's what Rockwood ran into. Ferndale's running into it. You know, there's talks at Conemaugh Valley. You know, they've been very, very successful in youth football and junior high football the last couple of years. But can they keep that going at the varsity level? You know, that's definite strength. The weakness is, you know, at the bottom end, we're probably not as solid as the Laurel Highlands, as the Heritage Conferences, as the ICC Conference. But at the same time, you know, I think the WestPAC's got to be proactive. You know, I'm probably not very popular with the principals and the ADs in the WestPAC because I've been a huge Chestnut Ridge supporter for 5 or 6 years. Probably one of our most well-attended games at Berlin, even bigger than the Myersdale game, was a game against Chestnut Ridge in 2010. And you know, they're sitting 12 miles down the road from Berlin. It would be a great rivalry game, but some of the smaller schools don't want to hear about it. You know, but I think we have to be proactive. I know when I was in high school and played, the WestPAC and Heritage Conference was what was known as the Appalachian Conference, and they had 3 pods of 5 or 6 teams, and we definitely got to be proactive, because right now sitting with 10 teams, you know, if another school folds, you're in trouble. And I mean, it'd be good for the credibility. It'd be good. You know, I like to see the games. You know, I've heard different schools say, well, they don't want to play the Heritage Conference because they don't want to play Ligonier. I want to play schools like that. You know, those are schools that are going to make you better. Those are schools that are going to prepare you better for November, December football, you know, as compared to some games that you're winning 50-0 at halftime.
I'm going to ask you a question. It's kind of backwards from what I asked the Laurel Highlands Conference. One of the disappointing things from a media standpoint is that the Laurel Highlands Conference doesn't have a championship. Now, in 2014, they did, only by virtue of the schedule, where the last game of the year was a BG Somerset game. Ridiculous atmosphere. Golden Eagle Stadium down the road here, 5,000 plus people. They had to bring in extra seats, people standing around. Standing room only, fantastic game. This year, we have to have co-champions because we have 2 undefeated with Bedford and BG. We have to fit 2 helmets on here somehow. And I always ask the coaches, is a conference championship that important to you, or would you rather not have a championship and just play a regular game and then go towards the districts? You have a championship, so let me ask you, is it that big of a deal to make it to that, or would you rather just play another game, doesn't matter, I'm more worried about the districts?
We've actually liked it the last 2 years because, you know, getting to play Portage, those are the games that get you ready for the playoffs. You know, like I said, with the discrepancy in our conference from top to bottom, you know, we liked that Portage game both years, you know. It helped us get it ready for that. But now, actually, unfortunately, you know, the WestPAC's getting away from that the next 2 years. But it's not a bad deal what they're going to. The Week 10 game for the next 2 years schedule is going to be a WestPAC Heritage crossover. Number one, like this year, we finished 9-0. We would have been the WestPAC champs. We would have been probably playing, I think Penn's Manor was 9-0 in the Heritage Conference. Portage, which was 8-1, would have been playing 8-1 Ligonier. So that's a pretty good deal too, because, you know, if you're a quality football team, that's going to be a, you know, playoff type atmosphere game for you. But I did like the conference games. You know, the Laurel Highlands is kind of sitting in the same boat with 11 teams. You know, they're sitting there with an odd number of teams, and they can't play everybody. Unfortunately, this year, I think everybody would have loved to seen that Bedford BG game. But, you know, if I would have my choice, I like the conference championship game.
Well, I wish you the best of luck in the coming year. I know that you're going to have a busy off season. I love how there is no such thing, but you know, it's your non-playing season. And just to let you WestPAC fans know, we haven't abandoned Blitz. We want to bring the show back. We'd love to have it back. Just we got to get those sponsors on board, and we're working hard in this off season to try to court some more people to get the show back on. I know everybody loved it on Sunday mornings and on rmgsports.net, and we're going to work hard, and hopefully we'll see plenty of Berlin Mountaineer football next year.
Hopefully, like I said, I think we're going to keep rolling next year. You know, we've got to stay injury-free, small school football. You said about the off season, Friday night, right after the Faro game, seniors talk. Tristan Brandt, who's one of our better linemen who got hurt towards the end of the year, told the kids, I'll see you in the weight room Monday. He said, we're getting ready for 2016. So I had a 48-hour off season, and we're back at it, getting ready for 2016.
Well, we look forward to seeing you, Coach, and best of luck to you and the Mountaineers.
Hey, thank you very much.